When people talk about learning English, they talk about it the wrong way. They talk about it like it is a certificate to earn, a line to add to a resume, a checkbox on the list of things a professionally competent person should have. They measure it in levels, A1, B2, C1, as if fluency were a bureaucratic status to be assigned rather than a transformation to be lived. They are missing the point entirely. English is not a skill the way typing is a skill. It is not a competency the way knowing Excel is a competency. It is not a qualification the way a degree is a qualification. English is a superpower. And I mean that literally, not motivationally. I mean it in the precise, specific, demonstrable sense that the people who possess it operate in the world with capabilities that the people who do not possess it simply do not have. They see things others cannot see. They access things others cannot access. They become things others cannot become. Not because they are more intelligent or more talented or more deserving, but because they have a key that opens a door that most of the world is standing outside of. Today, we are going to talk about what that key actually opens, not in the vague, inspirational language that floats around conversations about English learning, but specifically, concretely, in a way that makes you feel, not just understand, but feel, exactly what is waiting for you on the other side of fluency. Let us start with the first superpower that English gives you, the superpower of invisible walls becoming visible and then disappearing. Most people who do not speak English fluently live inside a set of limitations that they have stopped noticing because the limitations have always been there. They are like the walls of the room you grew up in, so familiar, so constant, that you stopped seeing them years ago and started experiencing them simply as the shape of the world. The job posting that said English required, you did not apply, not because you were unqualified in any other way, but because of those two words. The online course from the world's best university, you could not follow it. Not because the concepts were beyond you, because the language was. The book that everyone in your field is reading and discussing and building on, you have not read it. Not because it was unavailable, because it was in English. These are not small inconveniences. Accumulated over a career, over a lifetime, they represent an enormous narrowing of what is possible. Opportunities not taken, knowledge not acquired, versions of yourself not realized because the path to them was blocked by a language barrier that felt permanent but was never actually permanent. The moment you cross that barrier, the moment English stops being an obstacle and starts being a vehicle, those walls do not just become doors. They disappear. And you look around at the landscape that was always there, always available, always waiting, and you realize how large the world actually is compared to the portion of it you were living in. This is the first superpower. Not gaining something new, accessing something that was always there but invisible to you. The world does not change. You change. And the world reveals itself to you differently as a result. The second superpower is the one that surprises people most, because it has nothing to do with career or opportunity or any of the practical reasons people usually give for learning English. It is the superpower of a second self. Psychologists and linguists who study bilingual people have documented something remarkable. When bilingual people switch languages, they do not just switch communication systems. They shift in measurable, consistent ways. In personality, in the decisions they make, in the values they prioritize, in the risk they are willing to take. A study conducted by researchers in the United States found that bilingual people make more rational, less emotionally biased decisions when they reason in their second language than when they reason in their native one. The distance from the emotional loading of the mother tongue creates a kind of cognitive clarity, a space in which thinking becomes less reactive and more deliberate. Other research has found that people describe their personality differently depending on which language they are speaking. In their native language, they are one person, shaped by the history and the social expectations and the emotional associations that their first language carries. In their second language, they have room to be someone slightly different, more confident in many cases, more direct, more willing to take up space. This is not about becoming someone you are not. It is about having access to more of who you already are. The second language creates a second perspective, a vantage point from which you can see your own thinking more clearly, question your own assumptions more easily, and express dimensions of yourself that the weight of your first language sometimes suppresses. Think about what this means in practice. The conversation where you need to be assertive, and your native language pulls you toward the indirection that your culture expects. In English, you can be direct, clearly, professionally, without violating any cultural expectation because the expectation is different in English. The negotiation where emotion is the enemy of clear thinking. In English, the slight cognitive distance helps you stay rational, strategic, focused on the outcome rather than the feeling. The second self is not a mask. It is an expansion, a larger range of expression, a wider set of available behaviors, a more complete version of the person you have always been becoming. The third superpower is perhaps the most practically transformative of all. It is the superpower of compound access. Here is what compound access means. Every resource, every connection, every opportunity that English unlocks leads to more resources, more connections, more opportunities, because the world of English language knowledge and relationship is not a finite room, but an expanding network. The more of it you access, the more pathways open to further access. Consider knowledge. The English language internet contains more information than any human being could process in 1,000 lifetimes. But it is not just quantity, it is currency. The most recent research in any field, published today, this week, this month, is overwhelmingly in English. The most influential ideas in technology, in business, in psychology, in medicine, in design, in every domain that shapes the modern world, arrive in English first, sometimes years before they are translated, if they are translated at all. The person who reads English fluently is not just better informed than the person who does not. They are operating in the present, while the person without English is, in many fields, operating in a version of the past. Reading translated summaries of ideas that the English fluent world has already built upon, already critiqued, already moved beyond. In a world where the half-life of knowledge is shrinking, where what is current today becomes outdated faster than at any previous point in history, that gap between the present and the past is not a small disadvantage. It is the difference between being at the frontier and being behind it. And then consider connection. The English-speaking professional network is the largest, most active, most globally distributed professional community in the world. The person who can participate in it fully, who can write with clarity and speak with confidence, and engage without the friction of language barrier, has access to mentors, collaborators, clients, and partners that the person outside the network does not. And every genuine connection in that network is itself a door to further connections. The mentor who introduces you to the colleague, the client who refers you to the partner, the collaborator whose network becomes partially yours. Compound access, one thing leading to another in an expanding chain of possibility that starts with a single act of linguistic courage. The fourth superpower is one that goes beyond your career, beyond your income, beyond any measurable professional outcome. It is the superpower of being understood by the world. You have something to say. I know you do. Every human being who has lived a real life, who has thought seriously about their experience, who has something unique to contribute from the particular vantage point of their particular history, has something to say that the world needs to hear. But saying it only in your native language means saying it only to the fraction of the world that speaks it. Your insight, your story, your contribution, contained within a linguistic boundary that is smaller than your potential audience by a factor of 10 or 100 or more. English removes that boundary. It does not replace your native voice. It amplifies it. It takes the thing you have to say and gives it access to an audience that is not limited by geography or the accident of which language was spoken in the house where you grew up. The entrepreneur whose idea could transform an industry, but whose pitch is only heard by the investors in their country. The teacher whose method could change how children learn, but whose work is only read by the educators in their language. The writer whose story could move people on every continent, but whose words reach only those who share their tongue. English is the amplifier. It does not create the message. It carries it further than you could carry it alone. And here is what this means for you specifically, right now, at whatever point in your English learning journey you currently occupy. Every step forward in English is a step toward being more fully heard, more completely understood, more able to contribute the specific, irreplaceable thing that only you can contribute to the full scope of the audience that deserves to encounter it. Your voice matters. English lets it travel. Now let us talk about the fifth superpower, the one that is internal rather than external, the one that does not show up in career statistics or income data, but that people who have achieved English fluency describe, consistently and with genuine emotion, as the most profound change of all. The superpower of confidence that cannot be taken away. Learning English as an adult, genuinely learning it, pushing through the discomfort and the embarrassment and the long plateau of intermediate competence where you can understand but cannot yet express yourself the way you want to, is one of the hardest things a person can do voluntarily. It requires you to be a beginner in public, to make mistakes in front of other people, to not know things that others know, to feel stupid regularly in pursuit of something you have decided matters, to persist through the frustration of knowing exactly what you want to say and not yet having the language to say it. This is humbling. It is genuinely, consistently humbling. And on the other side of that humility is something extraordinary. Because the person who has done a hard thing, who has sat with the discomfort and pushed through anyway, who has failed and tried again and failed differently and kept going, that person has evidence. Real, personal, irreplaceable evidence that they are capable of doing hard things. The confidence that comes from learning English is not the fragile confidence that depends on favorable circumstances and other people's approval. It is the durable confidence that has been earned through genuine difficulty. The confidence that says, "I did not know if I could do this. I was not sure. There were days when it felt impossible, and I did it anyway. I am capable of more than I thought." That confidence does not stay confined to language. It spreads. It changes how you approach every other difficult thing in your life. Because you have a reference point now, a moment you can return to, a thing you have already done that was hard. And that reference point reshapes your relationship with challenge everywhere you encounter it. English fluency, for many people, is the first genuinely hard thing they chose to do and completed. And the person who emerges on the other side is not the same person who began. They are larger, more self-assured, more willing to begin things whose outcome is uncertain. This is a superpower. Not because of what it does in your English conversations, because of what it does in your life. Now, I want to speak to the part of you that is still uncertain, the part that has been learning English for months or years and still feels far from where you want to be. The part that wonders whether fluency is genuinely available to you or whether it is something that other people achieve while you remain permanently stuck at the level of almost, but not quite. Here is what I need you to hear. The path to fluency is not a straight line. It is a curve. And the curve has a frustrating property. It is nearly flat for a very long time, and then it bends sharply upward. Most people who stop before fluency stop during the flat part. They look at how far they have come and measure it against how far they feel they need to go, and the distance seems too large, and the progress seems too small, and the voice that says, "Maybe this is not for you," gets loud enough to be convincing. But beneath the flat part, something is happening that is invisible from the surface. The brain is building structure. It is accumulating exposure. It is laying the neural groundwork for the comprehension and the expression that will, suddenly and somewhat unexpectedly, begin to emerge with a speed and ease that would have seemed impossible 6 months earlier. The bend in the curve is coming. For everyone who does not stop before it arrives, the bend always comes. Do not stop. Not because fluency is close, it may not feel close at all, but because every day of genuine engagement with English is a day of invisible construction. Every conversation attempted, every article read, every video watched, every sentence produced, however imperfectly, is a contribution to the structure that will one day support the fluency you are building toward. The superpower is being assembled inside you right now. You cannot see it yet, but it is there, being built, day by day, word by word, moment by moment of courage in the face of imperfection. And one day, not in some distant theoretical future, but in a specific, real, dateable moment, you will say something in English and hear yourself saying it and understand with absolute certainty that you are no longer learning a language. You are living in one. And the world on the other side of that moment is bigger than you currently know how to imagine. Keep going. The superpower is yours. You are already in the process of claiming it. Do not stop now.